the positive side to what you call duality. Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. So this morning, coming out and getting ready to come to the park and do some writing. And one of the drop-ins from this morning was about what we call duality. And I've done videos on this of channelings that there really is no duality. It's just what we term as duality, because that's how we experience it and express it from this side of our view, our perception, our reality of play, or whatever you want to call it when we're here. But on the other side, it doesn't actually exist. There's only one of everything, and that's the way it's been created, right? And so what that means is there's a positive side to it, but from this side, we see it as negative. We have the mind that's always looking for what's wrong so it can fix it. And then we have the ego, which always gets wounded and hurt and protective and, acts from that perspective, which is all on the shadow side, the effects of our situations in reality, trying to contemplate and maneuver through this world in our life situations, right? And so we have those, and not that they're against us, they're there to help us. Only if we are looking at it in a negative way, then it's against us. But if we look at them and know how they operate and work, then it is for us, right? And everything is for us as it's been created. There's nothing against us. And so since there's nothing against us and it's all for us, then we get to choose what we're wanting to see, feel, hear, sense, and experience, right? Because if you're gonna see it from this side of the duality on this side, and then it doesn't exist there, so it's only one. Everything is just one of everything, which is this streams of consciousness. So you have a stream of a consciousness, and I've talked about this in other videos, from like one to the other, and you have different degrees along that timeline, right? Those are timelines. It's a timeline for everything. So from hot to cold, right? But we look at it from the side from as duality, the world of duality. But it's actually opposite ends of the stick, right? Which Abraham talks about, right? And so part of that teaching kind of fits in with this. It's like you can choose everything along that stream of consciousness, which is the higher or the lower, right? One side to the lower. The lower is the lack and the higher is the fullness. So you have love, no, the lack of love, right? And so you have different streams within that you can choose from. You have all these different streams and levels of awareness and consciousness that we're experiencing throughout our lives, and it's just by picking it, right? And so you get to pick along the streams of consciousness what you want to experience. And so when we look at it from the perception of duality and the negativity of it, and we have to experience one from the other, it kind of puts us in this loop, right? And so that is what keeps perpetuating our suffering in the certain situations in that life, when if we know that we can pick from it and choose from it, then we have more control on life than to be the victim in suffering the patterns of our life and our experience, right? And so from that perspective, standing in that way, you're more of the director of your life, not the receiver of your life, where you're just accepting life as it is and that you can't change it, which is being the victim role, which actually there isn't any role because it's all been done in your favor to help you. It's just knowing and learning about how everything works and the experience, right? And from my awakening, going through all my experiences, going home, the death experience, the Kundalini, and with spirit and source and my guides working with me every day to help bring all this information here, I'm getting to also absorb and learn a lot of this information too, so it helps me. And so, of course, sharing it with you, hopefully it helps you. But there actually is no, from their side, what they're showing and telling us, there's no actual real duality. It's just one side to the other, which is a stream of consciousness, and you have so many different degrees within that consciousness that you can pick from. And so that's where Abraham starts talking about what feels good, right? And that's how you go up the emotional scale, right? And so utilizing that scale, you can use it that way. But if you're feeling on the lack side, of one stream of consciousness, so say like finances or love or um, health. What feels good next? Okay, this is where I am, but where do I want to go? Right. And so you get to choose what you want, and having that consciousness and that awareness about it of where you are to where you want to be, setting that goal and that purpose, and then allowing the universe to take you there. Right. Because once you do that, you're conscious of your space, your awareness, you're conscious where you are, become aware of that, and then choose what you want, and then the consciousness will take you there. Right. And so it's a stream of consciousness that gets you there, and the path there may not always be fun or good or right away instantaneously, but if we can keep our focus and our attention on what we're wanting versus what we're replaying or perpetuating, then it can help to move it along. Right. And so that's why, you know even when you're not in that space, still do it. So like, even if you're creating art and you don't feel like doing art, still do art. Just do whatever. It's still going to take you along the path. If you're not feeling good, still do stuff. And I did that when I was younger. Like, whenever I felt like I was getting sick or ill or whatever it is, I would say to myself, no, right? And so I started developing this pattern where I never would get sick, and I never got sick, right? And so I I think I've been sick a few times in my life as a child, and I started doing these practices, which I didn't even realize I was doing, but it was like this consciousness that came in and was like, no, I'm not getting sick. And I would just go through my day without trying to go into the sickness, right? And so, because when you start feeding the sickness, you're going to be sick, right? We're creators. And so, if we're going to start feeling like we're getting sick or ill, and then we start playing the role, we're going to be it. We're going to have the experience. So, we're playing into it and creating more of it, right? Instead of using our choice and our ability, our conscious, our awareness to make other choices. And then if you don't focus on it, you're stepping out of it, right? And so you're not accepting that, and whatever subject that's going to be. It's not just, that was just an example of me not feeling well. And so if we're playing into it, we're going to experience it, and we're going to create more of it, right? So what we don't want, instead of looking at, okay, I have from here to here, what is on the stream of conscious, the path that I want to experience, right? And so choosing something else other than where you are, if you're not wanting to be there, and then let that evolve, right? And just keep your focus and intention there, because that adds energy, and then put your emotions there, right? And work towards that goal, right? And so again, the path may not be easy, but we have control. We have control at all times, because we have the different streams of consciousness, right? And it's not duality, because the duality keeps you in the loop, right? And they keep perpetuating the same thing over and over again, and that's what gets us stuck. And so then they explained to me about like how the English language is, right? It's a formulation of different words put together to make another word. So a lot of times when they're talking to me, they show me like for instance, duality, right? Do, right? Do or dual, right? So they put it as dual, not do. It's not duality, but that's how we express, or in verbalization, because it's different from telepathy to verbalization, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of times when you have the experience of the other side, it's hard to put in words. And so for us to put up and come to the English language, we kind of break certain things down so we can talk about and verbalize it and communicate on this level, right? And it's the experience and expression of verbalization versus telepathy and thinking, and being connected on that level, right? We have all the different connections. We have the verbal connection, we have the intellect, we have the emotional level communication, we have the telepathy, where thoughts from another person are just within ourselves, right? And so we have all these different communication styles and abilities, right? And we mostly just use language, but when you're coupling this down into verbalization, it's a short version of what is telepathy, right? Because as even when I'm writing and I see this happening, like when they're giving me information, it comes to me like it's different interpretation into words. And so as they're showing me, and I can write something, and then as I'm writing it, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense on this level. But then when I go back in to edit it, it's like more comes and then it expands. And so I have something that's a small paragraph that turns into like a whole page, right? Because when I just go back to edit it real quick, as far as punctuation, it turns into something that's like a whole page just from a little paragraph, right? So it expands. So the expansion of a short paragraph here of what we're talking about on a communication, verbalization level is so much more, understanding on the other side, but they condense it so that we are able to understand it, right? And so the words are condensed, right? So for instance, today's topic, the duality, right? And so dual means two, and itality, right, which is the reality, dual reality, right? So there is no dual reality, it's only one. And so they show me the duality as like dual, and then the other part of duality is reality. So put together, duality, right? But it's a dual reality, which is signifying that there's two, but there is never two of something. There's only one. It's just the two streams of consciousness. And you can look at it from this perspective because that's how we've been taught, that it's dual, like a um, duality reality, but it's actually not. It's a one consciousness, right? Everything is one. There's no two of one thing. And that goes kind of into the channeling that I did this morning. And so I can read a little bit about on that, but it's showing and sharing that, our words are comprised of multiple words put into one to make another meaning, which kind of takes away from the meaning of itself and its own reality, which is the creation of it. And so then it kind of creates a separation from here to there as we're communicating, right? Because it's kind of condensed form, the English language, of multiple meanings and expressions of itself, right? And the condensed form kind of brings us into an understanding that we're all taught and learned to understand it from a certain way. And so the expression of the duality was kind of put out there from this side of the reality, not on that side of the reality, because it doesn't exist there, right? And it only exists here. And so if it doesn't exist there and here, then it doesn't exist because it only exists. It's like it exists here but doesn't exist there. And so that's the streams of consciousness there as well. Whatever exists there, it doesn't exist here, or whatever exists here doesn't exist there. So those are two different streams of consciousness as well. But it's only one of each, because nothing can be the same. There's only one Laura, there's only one John, there's only one, and so even though we may have the same names, we're only one person. There's nothing ever alike. There's always something different, even if it's a micro change within its own self and its own reality. So from that point of perspective, then everything changes. And so there is never two of anything. It's just one in of itself being, which is the realization of itself, right? Whatever that is. It's like one tree, even though there's multiple same pine trees, there's something uniquely about that pine tree that makes it one individual, just like we are, just like every animal is. And so we may all categorize it as a whole, but it's only one within itself, right? Because we have dogs. Okay, so there's a dog, the own perspective, and then each dog is different. But then within that different dog type is its own being, its own reality, its perception, and its personality, right? And so there's no nothing ever the same. It's only one. And so when you have one, you can't call it duality, because that's the opposite, right? And so there's no opposites. There's only one of everything, right? And so I'll just read a little bit about that. It says duality, which is two reality. There is only one specific to itself, none the same, the expression of itself. So there's none opposite, only the expression, which is the opposite ends of the stick, which is still one. And so you can't divide one to get two. Therefore, duality doesn't exist. It just seems it. It is the streams of consciousness that one gets to play out in the experience, which leads us to our experience to play, for we can experience anything that one from one to the other end of the stick, which is the presence of it. And so to say that we live in duality isn't. We live in one stream of consciousness at a time, because you can't be happy and sad at the same time. And so it is one to itself being at the time on the timeline. So just what I was telling you about. So the point being, in this conversation today, why have this conversation, which came into um, sharing this with you, is because we get to choose, right? We always get to choose. And so there's never any victimhood. There's never not being, in a place that you don't want to be, because we always get to choose it. We're always choosing everything, and so everything is for you, right? Even though it may not be where you want to be at the moment, but you're on your way to something else. It is where it is that it is, and it's the stream of conscious that you're choosing, right? Because you can choose from here to there on every single topic, every single level, every single thing. You get this stream of consciousness from here to here, and you get to choose from it, right? There's no limitation. And so from the different consciousness, you get to choose anything, right? And so you can believe that there's a duality, but it doesn't exist, right? And so why believe in something that actually doesn't really exist unto itself, which is the consciousness that you are, right? It's the reality or the duality, which is a illusion, right? And so you either live in the trueness of yourself, or you live in the illusion of itself, which creates other awarenesses to itself. From that point of view, right? And so the experience of having the ability to make choice is allowing you to expand in your awareness and choose from the streams of consciousness that you want to experience, right? And so there's no limitations, like I was saying. And so from the place of expansion, you get to choose and be who you want, right? And so the experience comes to you from that point of view. So for instance, if you're on the side of lack of love and you want to experience love, so you choose love, right? Where are you on the stream of consciousness of love, right? Where are you on the stream of consciousness of abundance, on the health, on any of those topics that you want in your life, right? um, and then choosing from something else. And it's just becoming aware of where you are, at the moment. And that is going to be your presence, right? Your present moment, sitting down, taking a look at your life. What do I want? Instead of ruminating over it, because our minds will sit there and ruminate and think the thoughts, right? And then when you get on that track of perception reality, then it's going to create more of that, right? More of those thoughts, more of those emotions, more of those belief systems, more of that consciousness come into your awareness to let you know of where you are. Because when we're having experiences of where we are that we don't want to be, the more we think it is going to come to us, to bring it to us, to show us where it is that we are. And it'll keep coming back around, perpetuating cycles and patterns to let you know where you are in the stream of consciousness, so you can change it. And it won't it'll keep continuing until you do change it, right? And so it's the consciousness streams that we have that's there, that's set for you, right? And so there's no actual duality, right? That's an illusion. So when you take away the delusion, then you have the ability to pick and choose. You don't live in circumstances of your reality cycling back around and through from one to the other, because they are tied into each other, but you get to have one from the other. There's only one way, right? Of getting there, and that's by setting your intention and your choice, right? Because you can choose the lesser end or the higher end, right? And so there's all that within there. So like for love is lack of, and then there's the like, and then there's the love, right? So you have those different consciousness within, and each one has like a micro consciousness within itself along the path, right? On different levels, which is expansion. And so that may go against, what your belief systems are, or how you think it works, or what you've experienced, or what you've been taught, which just is ingrainment. You've accepted something from somebody else without experiencing it for yourself, or connecting to your true self to see the truth within it. But it makes sense to me, and because where I am on my path, and so to share that for you, to help with you, if it makes sense for you, that's great. Now if it doesn't, then maybe it's not something for you at this moment in time. But it was a great download for me today, to kind of help where shifting what I'm working on, as far as myself, and getting myself to that point, right? And so it definitely helped, for me to come in, and I figured I'd share that with you guys. to, stop looking at it as a duality point and to start looking at it as different streams of consciousness, which whatever you're wanting to work on, and choose from that because you have so many choices. There's no limitation in what you can choose. And a lot of teachers do talk about that. And then Abraham talks about that if you're into manifestation. And so that kind of helps bring things more into my awareness. And then I went into some other channel information after that. And then some healing on that. So I had shifted my perception and consciousness with that because when we are, um, you know, connecting to our true selves, our higher selves, or receiving divine information within ourselves, we have choice there too, because we can either accept what your higher self or your guides are telling you, or you can negate it, right, and be like, no. And so that means, one, you're not ready. You choose not to accept it because you choose to believe in other people outside of yourself, or you choose to believe in something that's been taught or ingrained and other people are talking about instead of your own awareness and consciousness that's coming from source or your higher self, right? And so if you're negating it, you're going to continue that pattern and that belief system and that awareness. But whereas if you accept from your higher self, the teachings that you receive within yourself, then you can, when you accept that, you're actually healing yourself because you're coming more in alignment with truth, if that makes sense. And so letting go of anything else that's been a condition on you, or a belief system that's been set upon you, or anything that's been ingrainment from childhood or past lives, letting that go and allowing the consciousness to come in, that is alignment more with the truth, from higher consciousness, what source or your guides, what they're sharing and giving to you, then you can heal yourself. It's when you keep a hold of everything here, that's part of this reality, that you're living in the illusion, the falseness, right? And so you become a false witness to your experience, the presence of who you think you are when you're actually not, right? And so when you accept outside of yourself from others, then you accept, what they are. And the funny thing about that is, not to go off on other tangents, but um, with that, when we're accepting things from other people, because we're all at different places, timelines, experiences, we're all in different places. Nobody's at the same place. There's even all one of every space that we're in. There's no duality of that either, right? And so we may have similar experiences, but we're all at a different place from a different perspective on a different scenario. For example, the family that they're giving me. Like you have the siblings, you have the parents, you have the grandmother. We all have different perspective of all situations. So if you ask um, someone from, if you ask one person from the whole family about a certain situation, they're going to have different perspectives, right? And so if you are at a certain place and you're taking on information or accepting it from where you are, and it may not even be in alignment with where you are, you're accepting something that is totally different than what you're needing to accept, right? And so a lot of times when we do that, we're stepping out of our own alignment with source, creating a separation from our true selves. We're going into the illusion, right, is what they're wanting me to share with you. So even accepting something, if it doesn't feel right, then don't accept it, right? And so even with what I'm sharing here, because I'm where I am, this is my journey, and what I'm sharing is helpful information for me, so I'm sharing it for you. And to help talk about these situations can help you to understand everything as we are, as a whole, and as we are evolving through the timelines, which is the experience that we get to experience by choosing it or not choosing it. And so when we choose it, we're accepting it, right? And so even what I speak about, because I'm where I am and you may not be where you are, you may not be even in resonance to what I'm saying. And so, but if you accept it onto yourself, then you can shift that consciousness and that awareness, but it's going to be from this place. It's not going to be from your higher self. There's still two different levels of awareness going on there, right? And so a lot of times we do share information. A lot of guides, spirits, source, or spiritual teachers will share their experience and their conscious. But if you're not ready, you're not going to be able to accept it. It's not going to resonate with you, right? But it's only when you are where you are that you're accepting it from that you're going to be able to receive it. And so if you found this video, then most likely you're ready. But if you're not ready to accept it, then you're not. Right? It's really up to you. You're the ultimate one that calls the shots within your life, and you get to accept what you're experiencing. And so, say like the experience when we were coming into this world, right? And so we are not conditioned. We have the information from our past lives that we're bringing into, but our conditioning starts at being in the womb and then carrying on into the physical to make it more real into this world. And then we're conditioned in our environments as we're growing up. But as we're accepting these from an unconditioned state, we're conditioning ourselves, and then we live that condition into our lives, right? And so it's like whenever we accept something as true, that we are taking it on, right? We accept it as ourselves, and then we live from that point of view, which is our set point. And I've talked about set points before. From that point, we are manifesting, creating whatever we believe is true. And so at some point, we became true in thinking that duality existed. From the point of oneness, which is all one, we come to the conclusion from the human perspective that there's a duality consciousness. However, it doesn't exist, right? And that's just seeing it from this perspective, that it was shared and created from that point of view, and the awareness that that was wherever that was came from, in that set point that was taken on into that and put out into the world. And so the consciousness of view is what makes it true, right? And so wherever it is that you're seeing it from is the consciousness that you're going to experience, right? And so pretty much everything that I wanted to share. I don't feel like they're giving me anything else to add to that. And with my experience this morning, and their inputs and the channeling that I did this morning is kind of about it. So, yeah, and again, it may not resonate with you at this time, and that's okay. And if it does, great. Use it to your benefits in manifesting, changing your life. And being mastery over life and not a victim. So, all right. If you have any comments, drop them below. If you would like to set up a session, let me know. We can get one set up for you. Just reach out. And that's pretty much it. And hope you guys have a great day. Happy journeys.